from Kendra Todd Group joins us now in studio. It's so great to have you in studio.
Likewise, it's so great to be here.
Kendra, you are one of the best when it comes to this, and you know, you've always called the housing market, and in some ways it sort of mirrors the conversation I had with John.
Yeah.
A lot of people I read were the top 100 metropolitan areas. It's cheaper to own than rent, and yet people continue to rent. Is that going to change?
We're already seeing the trends where it is changing. If you look at the ratio of home ownership to those who rent at the end of 2013, 65% of people now own a home and only 35% of people rent. And that's not that far off of the peak that we saw in 2002 where it was 70 to 30.
But when I look at the data, you know, the existing homes data and new homes data, I look at first-time buyers, and that number is like in the 28%, 27%, even down from a year ago.
Yeah.
And it feels like Wall Street's buying the houses, Chinese investors are buying the houses, but Americans, what are they afraid of? Is this really an indictment against the overall economy? Like, there's something else holding people back.
Well, when it comes to first-time home buyers, I think that there has just been a lot of skepticism because the housing market, when it crashed, it was ugly, it was bad, and people don't want to put themselves in that position. And then you have 17 million people who are either underwater still?
Still?
Yes, or they're
right
in
now,
a non-equitable position.
17 million still?
Yeah. There's about 10 million who are underwater and about 7 million who cannot refinance because they have less than 20% value in their home.
That's a big
So what's
number.
your overall take on the housing market? Do you think it's hitting solid ground right now? And also, are we getting rid of that shadow inventory, the overhang of foreclosed home? Is that going away or is that still a problem?
Well, let me address your second question first. Foreclosure filings are down 33%, and we expect to see foreclosure filings back to a more normal pace by 2015. So that's great news. What that's done, though, is it's really shrunk the existing inventory, which caused in the middle of the year kind of a buyer panic. So you had all these institutional investors, overseas buyers, as Charles mentioned, that were snapping up the lower-hanging fruit. That's what got a lot of the retail buyers back in the market and started these bidding wars and pushing the home values out.
One thing I find interesting, though, and I think the prices have come back too fast. I mean, could I be wrong there that a lot of fence sitters looking for a bottom, like people want to do no matter what the investment, saw them bounce back so quickly they feel like I missed it? I mean, is there a sense that maybe prices need to pull back a little bit?
Yes, and they will. The recovery happened so much faster than expected this year. I mean, there was about a 12.5% gain in home values, and that's just on a national average. I mean, you look at Vegas, California, we're talking 20 to 30% increases in value. Now, 2014, we're expected to see much more normal inventory levels, right around 6 months supply, which is healthy, and we're supposed to see anywhere between a 3 and 5% increase in values, which is pretty much, you know, on course with historic.
The other part of the argument is that banks simply aren't lending money. Is that still the case? Because when I look at the Fed survey, bankers are saying there's no demand for loans. Someone's not telling the truth.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's certainly more difficult to get a loan, although it's easier today than it was even a year and a half ago. So I think that those who can afford to buy are, and you know, here's the good news: 75 million people in America had their homes go up in value this year, and 5 million people got out of an underwater situation.
That is great news.
So, you know, I think that's a silver lining.
Before I let you go, one final quick question.
Yes.
Are you still buying houses the way most women buy shoes?
You remember. I said that like 8 years ago.
That was a great line.
Yes, although I am wearing a pretty good pair of shoes.
I hear you, and a nice dress. Thanks a lot, Kendra. Appreciate it. Hey, let's get back to the market and check on the big board.